Because pilots prove capability, not scale. In finance, scale only happens when AI survives approvals, exceptions, and audit scrutiny. If you can't explain who approved, what changed, why it happened, and who owns the outcome, you can't put AI into the core workflows at volume. So a lot of leadership is real activity, but not yet an operating model. Whether AI survives contact with the workflows that actually matter. Not drafting or summarizing the workflows tied to spend authority, controls, and close. Leadership is when the work holds under scrutiny. You can show the trail and you can trust it beyond the assistive use. We looked at 5 requirements that tend to decide if AI moves from pilots into operation: execution measures, minimum rules, skills, budget, and usable data. The key is they work as a system. You can't brute force scale with more tools or more pilots if one of those is missing. And the weakest one becomes actually the hard stop. Because we are involved when scaling becomes real, not theoretical. We see what happens when AI touches spend authority and payment execution, and when exceptions and audit questions show up. That's when teams discover whether they have an operating model or just an activity. It's why we say the scaling blocker is mechanics, approvals, exception handling, logging ownership, and not the actual model capability. Teams can build faster than they can govern. Skills and tooling run ahead, but rules are the weak link. The gap is exactly where scaling breaks. You end up with plenty of activity, but not enough defensibility to push AI into controlled workflows. It means the work is controllable and provable. Clear boundaries on what AI can and cannot do. Clear approval corridors for when a human must sign off. Logging by default, and a name owner for outcomes. If you can't defend it after the fact, you cannot scale it. It fails when AI touches authorities. Approvals, policy enforcement, payment release, vendor onboarding, anything that the audit will ask you later to prove. It also fails when exceptions show up, which they always do in finance. If exceptions aren't handled cleanly and ownership isn't explicit, control breaks. Stop adding use cases. More use cases without rules and data just create more surface area for failure. Treat it like an operating model problem. Identify what's missing, usually minimum rules, or the data path needed to reconcile output back to the source. Make one workflow defensible under policy and audit, and once it holds, scaling becomes a repetition game.